Hello and welcome to E-Magazine. I'm your host, Brenda Nemichaba. Ever heard of the term creative director? Does it ring a bell? Well, on today's episode of E-Magazine, we get to explore what role a creative director plays in the arts and entertainment industry. And helping me put perspective on this conversation today is Winnie Odande, who's a stylist, a fashion stylist, and a creative director. Welcome to Metropole Studios, Winnie.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay.
Now, one thing I want to start with is by understanding what exactly is a creative director.
Well, a creative director is a term that mostly creatives use, or people in the creative industry. And most of the time, people really don't understand or get to really understand what creative director means. But what it usually means is the creative director is mainly the brains behind the organization or the agency or the company. They pretty much come up with concepts that will actually visualize the idea that the client had.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So now you ventured into fashion creative director, right?
Yes.
And how has that been so far for you?
It's been interesting because this is my 5th year doing it. So as a stylist, I have my own company, Dande Styles.
Oh, okay.
So I'm also the creative director. Or well, pretty much I'm the lead stylist and the creative director. So I come up with concepts when it comes to maybe say work that needs to be done. Because sometimes we have personal projects that we do, and then we have clients' work that we also do.
Okay.
So whatever it is that we have to do, I'm pretty much the brains behind it. So I have to formulate a process that will actually make sure that whatever it is that say the brand or the client wants is actually what we deliver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, since you're in the fashion space when it comes to creative directing, what actually falls in there when it comes to creative directing?
It entails a lot because first of all, that it means you have, first of all, to be creative, as the name goes, because being creative is actually an ability. It's not a skill.
Yeah.
Because most of the times you find a skill requires a technique, and creativity is, you don't need a technique to be creative.
Yes.
It's just something that is in you. So what it entails it also needs you to be a thinker, because for you to come up with concepts that will actually create an emotion or evoke an emotion from a consumer, then it means you actually need to think beyond the usual.
Yes.
You need to be quite observant. You need to be strategic in how you're actually going to do your stuff. It needs you to actually be somebody who has managerial skills, because being a creative director means you're handling different departments. You're handling a team, and they're all looking up to you. You're actually the one approving the processes. So that means you have to be hands-on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you were getting into the fashion space, did you know that you wanted to be a creative director, or it's something that you grew interested in and you got into it later on?
Well, it's something I think just came about as I went about the styling business.
Yes.
Because even how I started fashion is also just a story on its own. So it's one of those things that as you keep doing it, then you just slowly grow. You realize this is actually the direction I'd love to go as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's something that I grew into.
Great. I'm happy you actually mentioned styling. I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to creative directors, especially in the fashion space, we tend to confuse stylists and creative directors. Do you care to elaborate the difference between those two?
Well, for a stylist, the stylist definitely, as the name goes by, your job is to dress people.
Yes.
And by dressing, it's not just dressing.
Yes.
By how dressing is known, but dressing in a certain way. Because you find, say, you're doing a job for an ad, and they have a concept, there's a message they want to put across. So styling needs to merge with the idea that the client has. So if they say we need a grandmother, we need a 10-year-old girl,
achieve.
So you actually, what I usually call styling like an episode of Criminal Minds, because now you have to play into a character and then bring it to life.
Okay.
So that is what styling is. And a creative director, how they differentiate with the stylist is, it's more like the scope of work or the scope of responsibilities. Because you see, for the creative director, they come up with a concept. They have to actually see through the formulation of the process. They have to go step by step and be sure that everything that is working according to plan. But for the stylist, then their job is just get the outfits, dress them.
All right.
Yeah, but the creative director handles the whole team behind the process.
Yes. Okay, great. So how long have you been a creative director for?
let's just say 5 years, because that is how long I've been running the company.
In those 5 years, what are the business challenges you face? The fact that you even have your own company with Dandy Styles. Can you point out some of the challenges you face growing your company in the Kenyan market?
Well, one of the main challenges is that this is Kenya. This is not, and we were not yet exposed as much, because at least now with social media and then with broadcast media, we've been exposed to so many things, and right now, at least when you tell somebody I'm a stylist, they kind of understand what you're talking about.
Yes.
But before you'd say you're a stylist, they'll be like, oh, okay, you're a designer. Okay, I still get that debate. So I have to explain, no, I'm not a designer, I'm a stylist. There's a difference.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a challenge of people understanding what it is you're doing, and then there's a challenge of people embracing it. Because they'll be like, do I really need a stylist? I mean, it's just dressing myself. I can just go to wherever, get my dress, and like, why should I pay that?
Yeah.
And then there's also the perception that only celebrities or people in the limelight are the ones that need a stylist, and the regular person doesn't need a stylist. But you see, for as long as you're wearing outfits, you actually need a stylist.
You need a stylist.
Yeah.
You're wearing clothes. Yeah.
Yes.
So what are some of the steps one can take into becoming a creative director?
Well, one of the steps that one needs to do is, okay, first of all, there's the education background. I don't have it. I didn't go to school to be a creative director. Actually, most of us, I think, don't have it. But there's the educational background, and then there's now the experience. I think experience is actually what even makes it. Because for you to be there, then you really need to have a major grasp of the industry you're in. So for me, like in fashion, I have to really understand what fashion is, what fashion in Kenya is. Understand the trends, understand what the business side of it all is. Because there's fashion as you know it, and then there's the business side of fashion as well. So it's encompassing all that into one, and just now working on the skills that you need to actually be that person.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned earlier that one of the major challenges you faced as in the creative directing space is that a lot of people don't understand the importance of a creative director, even a stylist. Now, do you feel like Kenyans in general, the consumers in Kenya, undermine the role of a stylist and a creative director in the fashion space especially?
I think anybody in the arts and entertainment industry will say that Kenyans undermine our
They undermine your work. Yeah.
Yes, because I think we've grown up in a society where we were taught go to school, work hard, get a good job.
A white collar job is the way to go.
Yes, so our kind of jobs are the non-conventional ones. And of course, by that, it means that people will not understand it. And guys will be like, how do you even make money out of it?
Yes.
I remember there was a time, there's a company, Barclays, I was consulting with them. And then one of the managers came and was like, so it was me and another designer. And they're talking to us and they were like, so this is what you do. Yeah, this is what you do on a daily basis. Yes.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you're doing? No. And you pay bills? Yes. And for her, it was quite impressive. She was actually even calling the other guys, like, come listen, like, this guy's actually
like
doing this.
An experiment.
Yes. Yeah. So it's one of those things that people still don't feel like it pays. And of course, it takes a while to pay. It's not one of those things that you just wake up and expect money.
To ask you, like, now with those challenges, do you find it hard to have a certain rating card when you go out there to work with certain brands? Do you feel like you have to show them this is what I'm worth?
Yes, because unfortunately what we do doesn't have tangible, how can I call it? You see, like the way if we give you food, we know our rose is this much, this is this much, so I can kind of estimate why this price is coming to this point. But you see with clothing, if it's styling, it's very hard for someone to understand why you are charging 20K for just one outfit or 50 Gs for, so it's one of those things that you kind of need to help them get to that point, and even letting them know that it's not just about the outfit. You're also paying me for my time, you're paying me for my effort, you're paying me for my eyes. Because there's a reason why you've come to me and not come to another person. There's a reason why you're not doing it yourself. So it's a whole lot of things that make the price. There's the logistics, there's the cost of getting those things. So you also have a cost of production. If I go to source, I may spend 5 Gs on the cab. I may spend another amount getting the outfits, and then when they are used, I need to launder them. So I need to put all those costs in play.
You have some value addition coming back to that. Now, as a creative director, what do you think, how exactly do you make the arts and entertainment industry successful?
Well, for the creative director, how they actually go about it is first of all understanding the industry. Because once you have a grasp of how the industry is, then you're actually able to make an impact. And that is why you see one of the main skills or one of the main ways for you to become a creative director is actually experience. because being there for a long while then makes you have a hands-on, like you know exactly what it is you need to do and what is it you're supposed to do. So a creative director basically is the think tank of the industry. In that case, it means also that they are risk takers. It means that they actually think beyond the norm.
Yes.
And we need such a person if we are to move forward. Because if we stick to the regular people, and I'm not saying it in a bad way, if we stick to the regular way of thinking, then we cannot do much.
Okay.
But we need somebody who will actually be like, I need to change the perspective of thinking, I need to change the narrative in doing
most
some things.
definitely.
And that is where the creative director comes, because their job is to take risks and think beyond the usual.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you say that, actually, let me phrase this in a different way. Do you think the creative directing space is very competitive, especially in the Kenyan market? And is there a demand for creative directors?
There is a demand, but about competitiveness, I wouldn't say there is competition as yet, because I don't even think people still understand the role of the creative director. Even some of us who use the tag, I doubt understand what it really
exactly means.
Because it's like, you know, the way most people in their title, they'll be like CEO, co-founder. So creative director has been one of those things where you also just throw it there in the tag. But understanding then what it means then will help, and also just informing people. And because this now is one platform where people get to understand what a creative director is and what they do. And with that, once you understand that, then now people actually realize there actually is a need for that.
Yes.
So I think the first thing first that should be done is maybe create awareness on what a creative director is, and then from there people will actually realize there's need for one. But definitely there is space for more, because we need more wild thinkers.
And would you say a lot of people are creating, actually doing that, creating awareness of what our creative director does and the role, the importance they play in the entertainment industry? Is that happening right now?
It is happening. It is happening. Only it might not happen in the way that we expect. They might not actually use the word that this is what a creative director does, but they might show it in their ways, in how they're doing their job. But it is there that people actually actively doing that every day, trying to just put across that message, especially in the fashion industry. Yeah.
You mentioned that you've been there in the space for like 5 years right now.
Yeah.
How long did it take for you before people got to know your name, got to know you about your company? How long did that take?
It takes a while. It takes a while. It takes a lot of effort. Luckily for me, in my first year, I got to work with a multinational company. Though I was still in my learning process, but it was a big thing because I was just starting out. I was still green. So that, and then just exposing myself to the people in the industry, and then daily pushing out my work, because I post almost on a daily. And
so you need to have consistency.
Yes, consistency.
Yeah.
Because that pays. Because I remember people who've been there maybe since I started. Most of them, the one thing they usually talk about is the consistency, and they've seen the growth, they've seen the progress. So consistency, and of course, you are your first marketer, you're your first year leader. No one will just come and start posting your work. You're the one who needs to actually do that. So that is what I usually do on a daily. And I will always, after every post, I'll hashtag Dandistyle, Dandistyle, Dandistyle. So you find that name sticks. So it gets to a point, and now people call even Dandy or Dandistyles, because that is the name they keep hearing, they keep seeing. And you see that also helps, because the next time then they need a stylist, or somebody needs a stylist, they'll be like, oh, there's this one I usually see. I don't know them, but so that really helps. And so it's taken a while. Maybe not so long, but still, it took time. I think what I tell somebody is, don't do it for the fame, and don't get into it thinking, because talent is one thing. Talent won't take you far. Yes, talent will just get the job done. But beyond that, there's the work, there's the grit, there's the grind. So if you don't put all that and combine all that together, it's useless.
Wow. Okay, I'm loving our conversation with you, but sadly we have to take a short commercial break, and when we come back, we'll get more into details about what a creative director is all about, and also get to hear more about Winnie's company, Odande.